collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up on the programme this week, Foreign Minister Ioannis Kasoulides talks about Europe's role on the world stage and the part Cyprus can play.
Thinking that with the diplomacy of the checkbook and the patronizing on human rights was the way to prevent all this that is going on, it's, I think, a failed policy.
A Cypriot prepares for the women's Euro-Arabian North Pole expedition.
Yes, so polar bears are a reality, unfortunately. We have a team member from Sweden who lives in Svalbard, which is one of the most northernest communities in the world, and they are very well trained in polar bear safety, and she has been giving lectures on it. It's very scary to think about the possibility of meeting a polar bear, but it is a reality, and we need to get used to the idea that we may need to figure out a way to protect ourselves.
Nicosia celebrates its medieval heritage this weekend.
Nicosia has a rich medieval culture, a rich medieval civilization and tradition, and the aim of this festival was to discover Nicosia's medieval part and show them to everyone.
And there's good news on sustainable tourism.
2 out of 3 customers are actively interested in knowing about sustainability of the accommodation, especially what that they book.
Cyprus Foreign Minister Ioannis Kasoulides was the keynote speaker earlier this week at the second of a series of events held by the EU Commission representation in Cyprus to clarify and enlighten us about the Juncker proposals. I caught up with him as he arrived for the conference.
The theme today is the role of the European Union as a global actor. And I was given the part of the speech which has to do with Eastern Mediterranean. I'm going to talk indeed about the need being at the most turbulent part of the world nowadays to make best use of the soft power of the European Union. The policy of the past of thinking that with the diplomacy of the checkbook and the patronizing on human rights was the way to prevent all this that is going on, it's, I think, a failed policy. And I am promoting what Cyprus is doing in this region, where cooperation between moderate countries is paying dividends as a value added to the common foreign security policy of the European Union, hoping that a new approach will develop in the foreign policy of the European Union.
We're ideally placed in Cyprus because of our geographic location in this turbulent area.
We should take advantage of this.
Yes, how are you, in a sense, telling the European Union they can make use of Cypriot diplomacy?
For instance, our relations with Egypt is not just making, how shall I say, advices on human rights only. You need to have many other issues to work together in order to be in a position to have leverage to speak about human rights.
And what about
Europe is not doing this.
What about the role of Turkey, which is, of course, in the migrant crisis, a key player for Europe?
Yeah, it's a key player for Europe, not always to the right direction. Look at what's happening in Syria now.
Yes, but what can Cyprus do? Are you willing to engage, if you can, in some way with Turkey? And would a solution in Cyprus change the way we could approach them?
You're right, you found the answer. If we resolve the problem, then of course there will be engagement, and then a lot of things, better things can happen.
Cypriot Foreign Minister Ioannis Kasoulides, who was the keynote speaker at a conference earlier this week to look at the Juncker proposals hosted by the EU Commission representation in Cyprus.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
The Women's Euro-Arabian North Pole expedition is something we've spoken about on the programme before. We're talking about it again now because the ladies have gathered in Iceland for their training before they'll be setting off next spring on that ski to the North Pole. Stephanie Solomonides is one of the coordinators of the expedition. She joins us now. So, Stephanie, tell us first, for those who missed our last chat, where all the ladies have come from and how they got on, because it's the first time they've met in person, although I think they've been in contact over the internet.
Yes, absolutely. So the team consists of 12 ladies and Felicity Aston. The ladies are from various countries of Arabia. So we have a team member from Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia. We've got Europeans such as France, Sweden, Slovenia. And it's absolutely astounding to watch all these culturally different people all coming together, and they've all gotten along as, like a house on fire. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. As you said, they've been forging a relationship prior to meeting in Iceland, but there's nothing like obviously meeting your teammate for the first time in the same place and getting to know them.
And Iceland has welcomed you with rain and wind, I gather. It's nothing like as cold, I imagine, as it's going to be when you actually go on the expedition. But how have people handled that sort of change in weather, particularly those who aren't used to it?
Well, we've had a lot of rain, and obviously that kind of makes things a little bit difficult down in camp. Just going from one hut to another, or doing the tent routines outside, setting up tent. And this is the way it is. But we are moving up to the glacier in Iceland, and that should be a little bit closer to a polar environment. It's an ice cap. It will be under 0, so probably around -7, -8. So we hope that will give everyone a good taste of what it's like being on a polar environment.
Nothing like as cold as it will be, of course, on the expedition. -40 is what I heard there. But are the women handling this? I mean, they've obviously been told what sort of gear to bring with them, but it is very difficult sometimes to cope with such difficult conditions when it's so far out of your usual experience.
Yes, definitely. It is very hard for anyone to get their head around, even if they do come from a cold country. It's such a completely different environment, such a completely different situation to be in. So I think everyone sort of realised that early on. So it's not, you come here with the idea that you are going to be working towards this, and you can't be put off by it. So everyone's taken the weather changes in their stride, and there's a lot of positivity, and they're all looking. And my understanding is they're all looking forward to going out on the glacier today.
Now let's talk about some of the training that you've been doing. I've seen pictures of Felicity Aston, for example, explaining certain hand signals and signals with the ski sticks and so on. How about all of that? It's a lot of information to absorb in a fairly short period of time.
Yes, certainly. It is a small period of time to sort of get used to all that information that's been given, especially about safety, about polar bears. But, practice, that's why we're going to go out on the glacier and practice, because once these things start becoming a habit, it'll be much easier to sort of remember them and get used to the idea.
And when you've done your time on the glacier, are you going to be camping there as well? Because putting tents up and down, of course, is pretty difficult work with cold fingers.
Absolutely. We are going to follow a normal expedition plan while we're out on the glacier. That does involve skiing along for the day, setting up camp, making food, sleeping in a tent for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but sleeping in the tent in that environment, and then doing it all over again the next day. So it will be a good taster for everyone to see how they fare and if they're actually into the whole sort of experience, which I think they will be.
What about fitness? I seem to remember before your Antarctic expedition you used to go up and down on the beach in Cyprus dragging a tractor tyre behind you, and of course fitness and the stamina, let's say, to keep going over the days, dragging behind you your supplies and so on. I mean, that takes a lot of hard work. So what about the fitness? Are they all doing a regime?
Most of them have come here pretty fit. Everyone's sort of been working slowly on themselves and on their weak spots. And we've had a session on how to set up a training regime for each person, an individual one, because obviously everyone sort of has different preferences in how they want to be training. So, I think everyone's very well equipped to go back to their respective countries and get into their fitness and sort of reach that level that's expected by April.
And of course, as one of the organisers, I guess you and Felicity have to sort of debrief after this training session and spot any possible weaknesses in any of the team and ways to suggest that they can strengthen those areas. How do you go about that?
To be honest, my role in the team is just to make sure that everyone's sort of getting along, everything is running smoothly on a day-to-day basis. That is something for Felicity to sort of make a decision on and converse with any sort of team members that may be falling behind, may need other areas to work on. So that's her expertise, and she's the team leader. So I think it becomes fairly obvious when someone is struggling there.
And are they good at coming forward and saying, I'm struggling?
We'll see. The team's so large, it's very easy to fall through the cracks. So it will be a situation whereby all of us will be looking out for each other and sort of seeing if anyone is struggling and kind of picking up on those points.
So how many hours, days are you going to be on the glacier, and then what happens?
So we will be on the glacier for 4 days, and then the team disperses, and hopefully, if we get sponsorship, we'll be able to meet up again one more time before North Pole.
And that will be again in Iceland or somewhere else?
No, hopefully when we meet up, it will next be in a much colder environment, so sometime in the winter in Europe. And that should provide a really good last sort of situation to be in before, last good preparation.
Okay, we have to mention the polar bears. It's what we spoke about last time, and again I've seen a picture of somebody explaining to the team how to scare them away. What's the secret?
Yes, so polar bears are a reality, unfortunately. We have a team member from Sweden who lives in Svalbard, which is one of the most northernest communities in the world, and they are very well trained in polar bear safety, and she has been giving lectures on it. It's very scary to think about the possibility of meeting a polar bear, but it is a reality, and we need to get used to the idea that we may need to figure out a way to protect ourselves.
We did also speak about a member of the team having the ability, if necessary, to shoot a polar bear. Is that your Swedish member?
That will be the Swedish member who will be holding a rifle to defend us against a polar bear, along with Felicity.
Well, we're hoping that it won't come to that and that you'll see them from a distance, but they won't be any threat. I hope we'll speak again before you set off, but do tell us where people can follow the expedition.
So everyone can follow us on our Facebook page, the Euro-Arabian Women's Antarctic Expedition. We are also now on Instagram. Our handler is @NorthPole2017, and we are also on Twitter with the same handler, @NorthPole2017. So please follow us. Please like our photos and our posts. Hopefully we'll be keeping you entertained. We have a lot of characters in this team, and there's a lot of posting, a lot of funny posts going up at the moment.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck on the glacier. That's Stephanie Solomonides. And if you want to follow them, look on Facebook for the Women's Euro-Arabian North Pole Expedition.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Moloch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
Cyprus' biggest annual international sporting event takes place this weekend, and we're promised thrills in the town centre and big bucks for some of the drivers. It's the 10th and final round of the European Rally Championship. It's also the 5th round of the Middle East Rally Championship, and the Cyprus Rally starts from Limassol this evening. It'll finish on Sunday, and fans are in for a thrilling weekend. They'll be racing on both gravel and tarmac, and the reintroduction of some night stages as well. Then, to round it all off, on Sunday, the Cyprus Tourist Organisation sponsored Love Cyprus Golden Stage gives the crews a chance to fight for a share of €60,000 worth of prize money over the last two special stages. The big event, of course, is the super special stage, which will be run once again in the centre of Nicosia tomorrow afternoon. It'll start near the Finance Ministry, take crews around the municipal gardens, and then they'll cross into the moat near the Lidra Palace and head into the Turkish-occupied areas before returning once again near the Lidra Palace for the finish of the stage near the Supreme Court. Now, this is something that thrills the rally fans on the island, but really rather gets up the noses of motorists who find a knock-on effect of traffic problems across the centre of Nicosia for the duration of the stage and several hours before, when the roads are closed ready for the race. So do check if you're planning to be in that area of town. It's not a good idea to have your car with you. Now, Kajetan Kajetanovic from Poland has already clinched the European Rally Championship, but there's lots to fight for, and the two main contenders, seeded number 1 and 2 here, are going to be Russian Alexei Lukyanuk and Latvian Ralf Sirmacis, who are going to battle over every kilometre to clinch the runner-up slot in the championship. There are also teams from Turkey taking part, and a Greek who's seeded number 3, drivers too from Hungary, from the Lebanon and from Qatar. And then there's the Cypriot Challenge, headed by Christos Demosthenos and Kostas Zenonos. So that's the CNP Asfalistiki Cyprus Rally, kicking off tonight in Limassol.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
This weekend sees the first ever Medieval Nicosia Festival, and it starts this afternoon in the Old City with a guided tour. There's lots of things coming up. It's all organised by the Nicosia Tourism Board, whose representative Antigoni Iraklidou joins us now. Antigoni, where did the idea for this come from? Because Ayanapa has done a medieval music festival for many, many years, but this isn't just music, is it? This is all about medieval Nicosia.
Exactly. This is mostly about the city, because Nicosia has a rich medieval culture, a rich medieval civilization and tradition, and the aim of this festival was to discover Nicosia's medieval parts and show them to everyone. The idea came through discussion with Mrs. Titina Loizidou, a well-known tourist guide, and the board, or Nicosia Tourism Board, and we all discussed the idea with many people, and we came up with this 3-day festival. It's the first time, so the program is not as rich as we wanted it to be, but we hope that, judging from people's response, next year will be even bigger.
It does sound like it. I know that there are some things we'll talk about that are already overbooked. We can't take any more. But let's take it day by day. Mm-hmm. If we start at 4 o'clock this afternoon, Dr. Rita Severis is going to do a medieval tour of Nicosia. Where's she going to be going? I know it ends at the Leventis Municipal Museum.
Well, we're starting the tour from Hammam Omerie, and we're going to walk towards the Archbishopric and St. John's Cathedral. And then Mrs. Severi will lead us through Famagusta Gate and Chrysaliniotis area, Agios Kasianos, and there are many medieval houses and mansions, and the church of Chrysaliniotis is a medieval building itself. And we're going to end the tour at Ermou Street, and then we're going to walk from there towards Leventis Municipal Museum. And the tour will be taken over by Dr. Elena Pogagiu-Richter, museum's curator, and she will show us the museum's medieval exhibits. And the tour finishes with a Kumantaria cocktail in the courtyard of Leventis Municipal Museum.
So that's all happening this afternoon until about 7 this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go to tomorrow, there's a fascinating conference taking place, and I think you've brought over a professor from Cardiff University. Tell us about the Gothic capital of Cyprus.
Exactly. I should say that the title and the theme of the conference came up with the help of Dr. Nicosia of the Cyprus Research Center. And it's an honor to have with us tomorrow Professor Peter Edbury, a well-known medieval historian, friend of Cyprus. He visited Cyprus many times and he's written so much on Cyprus. And he's going to open the conference, and then we'll have 4 more talks by Dr. Nikos Koureas, and Dr. Michalis Olympios from University of Cyprus, and Dr. Konstantinos Georgiou, also from the University of Cyprus, and Dr. Rita Severis as well.
And that will be in English or in Greek?
In English, yeah. The talks will be in English, and the panels will be presided over by Dr. Dimitra Papanikola-Bagirtzi, who is the director of the Leventis Municipal Museum.
Right, that's from 9:30 until 2:30 tomorrow.
Yes.
Then people can go home and have a bit of a siesta or walk around the old town, I guess, because that's taking place at the lovely Kastelliotis Hall.
Exactly, which is a medieval hall itself. Yes.
And then everybody gathers again in the evening for a medieval banquet. Tell us about that, and how did you devise the menu?
That's really interesting, actually. With the help of the chef of Sivors, and Mrs. Rita Severi, we did a bit of a research on medieval foods and customs and everything.
But I understand you didn't decide to include some of the more favourite medieval things like raw meat.
Yes. Actually, we prefer to say that it's a gala dinner inspired by medieval times, because it would be too risky to offer genuine medieval foods because of the raw meat and everything. So it's a very rich menu with plenty of choices for every taste.
What sort of things did they eat back then, apart from the raw meat?
So we're going to have piglets and fish and kolokasi, lots of vegetables and preserved fruit for dessert. You can actually see the menu on our Facebook page. We've posted it there to get you ready for the event.
And that's a €30 price for the dinner.
Exactly.
But I presume that numbers are limited.
Numbers are limited, and we recommend you to book now. I should also add that we're going to have live music from the Kumantaria Orchestra during the dinner, and the whole place will be decorated accordingly.
To a medieval banquet, but you're not expecting people to dress up?
No, we don't.
So that's the medieval banquet tomorrow night, and then at 10 o'clock on Sunday we come to something that's been so popular I don't think you can take any more people, and that's the guided bus and walk around the Fikardou village, which is of course a UNESCO heritage site, isn't it?
Exactly. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are booked. But if anyone is interested to participate in the tour, they can meet us there. We cannot take more people by bus, but you can find us at the village, and the tourist guide will take you around.
So you can join on foot,
they can
basically.
Join us, yes.
Now it says 10 o'clock. Is that when the bus leaves Nicosia, or
yes,
when it starts in Fikardou?
At 10 o'clock we are going to gather outside the CTO tourist office in Lake Gitonia, so we're going to be at Fikardou around 11.
So you can join that, but all of these details, and I presume phone numbers to find out more, you can find if you visit the Nicosia Tourism Board website or look for them on Facebook.
Exactly.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The Cyprus Sustainable Tourism Initiative held its annual general meeting recently, and Arantxa Garcia, the head of sustainable development of the TUI group, addressed the meeting. She explained to me beforehand what she was doing in Cyprus.
I came in representation of TUI because we are founder members of this organization, and we wanted to celebrate this 10th anniversary with them, and also to talk a little bit about our views from a big company in relation to the sustainable tourism and the impacts in the world and culture and everywhere around us.
Now, sustainable tourism, how would you define it?
The normal definition is that tourism that respects, to us, is the tourism that respects the environment, the communities, and that optimizes its impact. This is very important for us, optimization. We can never find a positive impact everywhere. There is always an impact, but the key is that for us, a sustainable tourism is a tourism that optimizes the impact in order to ensure that this tourism industry will remain stable during the years.
I think it's something that travellers across the world are sort of waking up to now, isn't it? You get green key hotels, you get people checking before they book that the organisation they're booking with and the hotel they're staying at does have these sort of things in mind.
They do. Actually, we ran a study a couple of years ago when we found out that 2 out of 3 customers are actively interested in knowing about the sustainability of the accommodation, especially that they book, and that has made us for a long time now collaborate with different certifications and with all our suppliers to enhance or to ask them to actively obtain this type of certifications so that they can guarantee the customers that they will be staying in accommodations that are more responsible. And not only for accommodation, we also have this demand for our transports or for our excursions. So we are trying to do globally a more responsible approach to the
It's
tourism.
also an approach that when you think that most travellers go to foreign countries to absorb culture.
Yes.
Tradition and culture is very much built into the idea of sustainable tourism, isn't it? In terms of cuisine, local food, local produce and things like that. So how does Cyprus fare on that score? Because we have a lot of unique products, actually.
It is. Yeah, actually Cyprus has a big variety of local specialities, local food, herbs, and all types of different produces that are very attractive to the guests. We always try to include any type of what we call local taste or local flavor in at least the excursions we offer to the customers, and also in the hotels. We always work with our suppliers to ensure that they try as much as they can to always buy local produce, to bring the local food, the local flavors into the offering they have in the hotels, and again in the excursions we offer also.
So where do you go from here? Because Cyprus has set up a pretty comprehensive sustainable tourism industry, and I'm wondering how it can expand.
We need to continue working. It doesn't stop here. It is very important to start creating awareness, but there is always areas to improve. We are trying to reduce our carbon footprint, the emissions we produce. We also try to ensure we're now very much interested in education and culture. This is one of the topics of this meeting today. We believe that it's not only creating some sustainable products, it's embedding that into the culture and education of the population and all of the customers. So there is still quite a work to do on that field. We don't stop.
Arantxa Garcia, the head of sustainable development for the TUI group. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.